back to part 11 of my big 500-gallon fish tank on LA Fishguys. We're acclimating some new inhabitants here, and one of the things that we want to do for the new inhabitants as well as the existing ones is make sure that the water quality stays nice. We're going to address a couple issues in the tank that we all face, me more importantly, because I've got a lot of water and a lot of things in the tank that impact the water. The tank has been set up, as I've mentioned in episodes, for many years, and with that comes old tank syndrome. It's where excess nutrients build up in the rocks and the substrates. There's a big division amongst camps of having gravel in the tank versus not having gravel in the tank, and well, I have gravel in the tank. I like the look of it, but it is a growing issue in a tank this size when you've got the volume of gravel that we have in here. It collects a lot of nitrates, and as a result, it's really difficult to get my nitrates down to a level I like, irregardless of the amount of water changes we do. So today, we're going to remove a lot of that gravel. We're not going to remove it all today, but we're going to remove a good chunk of it. In doing so, we'll also do a 50-gallon water change, because that's how much we're going to pull out. Other things that I get to deal with are certainly algae, and some of those algae are nuisance algae. And some of that stuff is caused by nutrients, other just happen to get in your tank. And there's some unique ways of combating some of that algae, like bryopsis. And I can combat those algae while also benefiting my tank. I'm spending a lot more time doing testing, and I'm learning where my deficiencies are and where they're not. And one of the deficiencies I found is magnesium. Magnesium or magnesium additives can have a direct impact on bryopsis growth, for example. And so something I've been doing is adding Kent Marine magnesium to the system, and in turn, while raising my levels up, my bryopsis has actually been decreasing. I've now got my levels to where they should be for a reef tank. I'm going to go a little bit beyond that because it is safe, and that should pretty much eradicate most of my bryopsis. Beyond that, we get to deal with phosphates, and I've been using this product called lanthanum. Most of you pool guys might know it as the stuff you remove phosphates from pools, and actually that's what it is designed for. We have our lanthanum product here. I got it from a pool store. It's also made by a company called Sea Clear, who happens to make the same product in a different bottle with a different label for large aquariums. And a small amount of this can have a substantial impact on phosphates. I've actually, in a couple small doses, succeeded in removing 90% of the phosphates that I was able to register in the system. Of course, it'll still leach back in because it is in my gravel, it is in my live rock, and that's something I'm going to just have to deal with on a continual basis to the point where I get it all out of the system. But first thing we'll do is get rid of some of that gravel, which I know is harboring nitrates and phosphates, and that'll help me in the long term. In my case, lanthanum is dosed with a IV. I have a little IV bag here. I add a couple of milliliters of lanthanum to 1,000 milliliters of water. I hang this little bag when it's full up here and drip the lanthanum into 100 micron socks. I've got filter socks in the sump there, and what ends up happening is the phosphates, as it's run through the solution or as they drip into the socks, precipitates and actually coats the inside of the 100 micron socks, and remove the socks, and by removing the socks you remove the phosphates. And my results that I've seen have been pretty miraculous. I've seen no ill effects in the tank whatsoever. Water quality and water clarity have been improving. I don't do it often. I've done it twice in about 4 weeks, and again I've removed 50 to 75% of my phosphates from the tank and done it safely, at least from what I've read and the information I've gotten from people I've talked to in the aquarium, public aquarium sector.
Well, let's get to work sucking that gravel out of there then. What we're going to do is use this large diameter hose here, not only to siphon the old water out, but that's how we're going to suck the old gravel out into this big trash can here that I've got on casters. So I've got the big sucker over here, and he's going to get us started.
That looks like his handy helper. He wants me to do the dirty work. All right.
Okay.
Jim, start sucking.
Start sucking, baby. put her in. Oh.
So the idea here, instead of scooping the gravel out with a shovel or a net, we're just simply going to siphon the gravel out of the tank at the same time that we siphon water out of the tank.
Yeah, no, you're not. You're just not sucking sand, that's all.
It's not really as easy as you think, though.
You are. It's filling
Takes
up.
a little practice.
Hang on, we got snails in there.
Oh no, snail shells. But oddly enough, that's the biggest obstacle that I continue to suck up into the hose.
There are more snails.
Shake it. Okay.
Shake it.
No, don't.
Yes.
And trying to wrestle with a curved piece of tubing does make it tricky getting into some of those hard-to-reach areas.
And there goes the clownfish. Just kidding. The sea kitten lovers would scoff if that happened. They'd be real thrilled.
And like I said, it's those empty snail shells that are the biggest obstacle in this process.
Slowing us down.
Yeah, you're about to fall off that ladder.
So aside from staying on the ladder, as I mentioned, you get rid of those snail shells, and the process of sucking out or siphoning out the gravel is actually pretty easy.
Okay, we're about close to being done.
Okay, I am done.
Okay, go ahead and let's hold that thing up.
And that's how you siphon the sand and gravel out of the big 500-gallon aquarium.
To be continued. Much more. I think we probably got about 100 pounds out, and I must have 500 plus pounds. So now we get to use some of the water from storage bins outside. We got about 50 or so gallons to put back in. Water in there is kept at the same temperature as the tank, so it's same water temperature. Salinity is the same. So one of the things that you learn when you go through these drills is certain things that you should have, would have, could have done. And one of the things I got to do is add a pipe for my mixing pump with a valve that'll pump directly into the tank, so I don't have to go through running a hose through a window. That'll be a project probably for this weekend. Clamp our hose in there, that way when we fire up the pump it doesn't go squirting out the top of the tank into the water. And now we're ready to fire up the pump. A few things I could have done. I could have plugged this into one of my outlets and just turned it on that way, but I already had the outlet hot. So I'm not turning it on through the computer. And as I said, a pump or a line coming off of this line here, and I could use my mixing pump to pump the water into the tank. If I really want to get tricky, I could throw a solenoid in so I could hit stop from my computer and stop the water.
And he will get tricky.
Yeah, I'm not with the solenoid. And now we fill to the line. Just add water.
So in addition to those small 3-gallon daily water changes provided by the liter meter, this is how we do the large water changes in Scott's new version of the 500-gallon tank.
So we're done with our water change. Now I gotta mix up some more salt water. You can see, well, I can see we used about 50 gallons. Here we're just below the 60-gallon mark. So I'm gonna guesstimate about 50 gallons. Find the salt mix kind of mixes it up a little bit on the low side anyhow. So since we're gonna mix up, we gotta fire up the mixing pump. Open the the mixing pump. We're now mixing. Our little bag here. And, oh yeah, the tools are down here. Find the wrong tool for the job. Put my salt in. Now I gotta add fresh water, so I'm gonna close this valve here. Now we got our ODI pumping in. Let it fill up to the 100-gallon mark. Close the valve and let it mix. Much easier than sitting there with a trash can and stirring it up. You know now when the water level gets to the low level sensor on the freshwater tank, the RODI will automatically turn on, and when it gets full again, it'll shut itself off. which at the rate this thing goes, it'll be sometime around 3 in the morning. It'll have made 50 gallons or so.
So I have to admit, with all the bells, whistles, and high-tech toys, this certainly seems like a much easier way of doing water changes.
That's all for now. So we're done with our water change. Got our water level where we want it, right at the fill line there. Everything's happy there. It's now time to introduce the new fish to the tank. They're all done acclimating, so Jim will have the fun part of scooping them out. I'd get the net, but we'll scoop them in.
I have to say, catching them by hand is less stressful than a net. The trick is being smarter than the fish.
The fish master. He is the fish whisperer. Look at that. They just want to go into his hand. They know they've got bigger pastures ahead.
So after a few months of recovery, the addition of some new bells, whistles, and toys looks like the big 500-gallon tank's starting to come around. You can be as successful too. It just takes determination and the desire to keep moving forward.